Hello my graphics card hunting friends, and welcome back to monthly GPU Crisis Update, the series where we cover some of the most important topics that are going to affect upcoming GPU stock and availability, so that you have a better idea of what your chances are when it comes to buying a GPU this month. So this month, the month of December, we've actually been doing this every month since July, so check out the full GPU update playlist below that not only includes our monthly GPU Crisis Updates like this, but also taking you guys along for in-store drops that I've been to and investigative pieces that show which manufacturers and retailers are acting the shadiest towards consumers during these trying times. So check that out after this video, but this month, the month of December, we're going to be talking about some recent news that could positively or negatively impact GPU pricing and availability, covering Bitcoin and Ethereum pricing, Nvidia increases supply while AMD increases price instead, the fact that mining is destroying the EU's climate targets, and both RTX 4000 and RDNA 3 price leaks set to release in 2022. Then we're going to look at how our GPU use market data has reflected last month's crypto news and trends to assess how high demand is and see if this is the month of the GPU. Let me explain. Okay, so starting off with our first of three news topics, Nvidia has been pumping out GPUs 8% faster for the holidays, while AMD decided to implement another price increase for their already unjustifiably expensive Radeon 6000 cards. And what I mean by that is I am literally able to walk into a store today and buy a Radeon 6000 series GPU, but the reason why I can is because I don't want to. And the reason why I don't want to is because, like many of you guys, I can't justify the up to 100% markup over their launch MSRP. But unfortunately, I have more bad news for you. Many news outlets are, in my opinion, misreporting the fact that Radeon 6000 series graphics cards are going up by another 10%, adding an additional $20 to $40 to your Radeon 6000 graphics card purchase. The reason that I think this is being misreported so frequently is because 1, people aren't really reading the statement, and 2, apparently can't do basic math either. So let's break it down. The bit that I think people are misreading is this section, quote, "The model implementation has increased by about 10%, about $20 to $40 US. That is, from the next AMD GPU supply and shipment costs, prices will rise across the board." So now, based off that statement, many news outlets have reported that Radeon 6000 graphics cards will increase by $20 to $40 US based on the fact that GPUs will increase by $20 to $40 US. But I fear that they just got played through vagueness, and I fear that it's worse than they think. You see, the term GPU and graphics card often get used interchangeably, with the same definition as the term video card. But a GPU, a graphics processing unit, can also be used to describe the physical processor on a graphics card. And that's what I think AMD meant by the phrase increase by about 10%, about $20 to $40 US. Because for that to be mathematically correct, the current cards sold would by definition have to cost between $200 and $400, which obviously isn't the case. And there's no mathematical way to make that work for nearly all current Radeon 6000 cards. In fact, $20 to $40 is actually significantly closer to 1% than it is to 10% for many of their cards right now. Therefore, I think AMD is actually talking about the graphics processor that lives at the heart of the GPU. And the sad reality of it is, if I am right, prices of Radeon graphics cards will likely go up by more than $20 to $40 US, as the cost will likely get passed on and inflated by everyone within the manufacturing and logistics process until you're left to pay the cumulative sum. Furthermore, it's interesting to think that AMD's Ryzen 5000 series CPUs have come down in price, despite being built on the same TSMC 7nm node as their GPUs, which are going up in price because of shortages and raised costs. So if Intel Alder Lake CPUs have triggered Ryzen 5000 price decreases, I'm excited to see what their ARC GPUs will do to the graphics card market come early 22. Now we have news topic number 2. Swedish authorities, namely Erik Thedéen, Director of Swedish Financial Supervisory Authority, and Bjorn Riesinger, Director of Swedish Environmental Protection Agency, state cryptocurrency's rising energy usage is threatening Sweden's ability to meet its obligations under the Paris Climate Agreement, thus calling on the European Union to ban cryptocurrency mining, or at least ban proof-of-work-based mining, such as Bitcoin and the current iteration of Ethereum. They state that between April and August this year, the energy consumption of Bitcoin mining in the Nordic country rose by several 100%. And now consumes the equivalent electricity of 200,000 households. This is likely due to the forced migration of many mining operations that were previously based in China before being banned, and likely hasn't only affected Sweden, but also other countries with low electricity costs that have invested heavily in renewable energy sources. So it's going to be interesting to see which other countries have been impacted by this and how they might put pressure on the EU to do something about it. And if they're successful in doing so, this may leave limited options for miners to continue their operation, which could potentially flood global markets with much needed graphics cards. So this is definitely a positive topic for gamers to keep a close eye on. So the last of our three news topics. As reported in a previous GPU crisis update, the RTX 4090, part of Nvidia's Lovelace architecture, is currently set to release in Q3 22, and AMD's RX 7000 series, the reported name of their upcoming RDNA 3 architecture, is more likely to be coming out sometime between Q3 22 and the first half of 2023. And as we approach those dates, more information is being leaked regarding pricing. Red Gaming Tech, a well-established GPU leaker, recently explained that his sources are expecting the price target of the RTX 4090 to be about the $1,500 to $1,700 US mark, which, yes, that is still a lot of money. And this is still a flagship card, but with a speculated 2.3 times the performance of the RTX 3090, the 4090 looks to be a lot better value, which, if this is true, makes me extremely hopeful for the price to performance target of more price-friendly consumer cards like the 4060. But when it comes to AMD's RDNA 3 or RX 7000 series cards, it gets very complicated very quickly. And AMD's flagship card will likely cost a decent chunk more than Nvidia's, reported at or over the $2,000 US mark. This is primarily because AMD are reportedly going to be using very advanced packaging technologies, including multi-chip modules. Now, what we mean by multi-chip modules, or MCM for short, is not two independent GPUs on a PCB like the Nvidia GTX Titan Z shown here. As you can see, there are two unique GPUs with independent memory and power delivery for each of them. In this configuration, multi-GPU scaling techniques like SLI are used to utilize both GPUs in an attempt to improve performance, which sounds like a great idea, but was unfortunately proved time and time again to be extremely inefficient, primarily due to communication and the sharing of resources between the two distinct GPUs. However, AMD's implementation of multi-chip modules within their upcoming GPUs aim to improve upon this design, and are actually going to be more similar to something like this, a high-end Ryzen CPU, which underneath the heat spreader, sat on top of the substrate, are multiple dies that contain individual banks of processors as well as an I/O controller. By implementing a similar multi-chip module configuration for graphics cards, AMD can increase communication speed and decrease latency between processors, which should be a far superior implementation compared to multi-GPU cards of yesteryear. The main benefits of multi-chip modules are primarily increased yields compared to the standard monolithic dies that we see today, as there are far less physical processors per module, which also means that there's less chance for things to go wrong per die, and should translate into a lower production cost because of this. But if this does mean lower production costs, why the high price tag? Well, this is no insignificant R&D feat to get this working well. Fast communication and low latency are extremely important to parallel processing and computation used in a modern GPU architecture, which multi-GPU modules are not conducive to. Nevertheless, AMD have come a long way with their Ryzen processors based on a similar design, so I'm excited to see how their MCM GPUs perform when it comes to frame rate. But news topics aren't the only source of information, and sometimes they aren't even the most important when it comes to the here and now. So you're going to want to know how the market's been reacting in real time, and see what your chances are right now when it comes to buying a GPU. So let's take a look at our crypto and news market data, as these will directly impact your ability to buy a GPU. Because remember, if GPUs become more valuable to mine on, they become harder to source both used and new from official retailers, because of higher competition. So let's take a look at that now. As I've mentioned previously, I only trade crypto, which I do think is important if I'm going to talk to you guys about it. And as always with these updates, there are going to be links in the video description to the exchanges that I've used to do that. Because if you've been thinking about trading crypto, go take a look down there, it'll get you started. There's also recommended hardware wallets down there as well, because don't be an idiot when it comes to storing database assets. They also make for good gifts. So let's start with Bitcoin over the past month. So Bitcoin, as it currently stands, is $56,579. This time last month was $63,152. So that is a dip of about $7,000 over the past month. It saw a peak on November 8th at $76,500, and its lowest point, $53,700 on November 26th. Now this trend, this decline, is actually very promising for people looking to buy a GPU right now, because the value of Bitcoin and the trend of Bitcoin as well is also a good indication for how other cryptocurrencies are doing. It's not like for like, but if Bitcoin is up, other cryptocurrencies are typically up, and if Bitcoin is down, others are typically down. Now this is good news for gamers, because if Bitcoin goes down, as it's trending at the moment, more miners will be releasing their cards onto eBay on the used market, which allows for less competition on the new market, which is also a good thing for gamers, because it means that you're more likely to buy a GPU if Bitcoin and Ethereum pricing is down. Which, speaking of, let's have a look at Ethereum. Ethereum right now is at $4,500, started the month at $4,600 basically. Again, peaked around the November 8th, and dipped the worst November 18th. But again, November 26th was a hard day for Ethereum, as it also was for Bitcoin. You see, they trend quite similarly. Not exactly, but similarly. But then Ethereum actually rose a lot after that, whereas Bitcoin didn't recover nearly as much. So this is not good specifically because Ethereum is the most likely coin that people are mining off their GPUs, which means even more so than Bitcoin, if the value of Ethereum goes up, that is bad news for gamers, and right now it is still very high, almost just as high as it was a month ago. So the hypothesis is that as Bitcoin and Ethereum prices go up, so do the value of GPUs and the interest in GPUs from the mining community, as they become a more profitable asset to mine off. So let's take a look at our used market data and see if it reflects this. So as always with our GPU crisis update, we take TechSpot's data. They've released their average for November right here, and they take the average sale within the 3rd week on eBay right there. So we take a few of these records and we implement them into our own spreadsheet right here. Our spreadsheet here overlays Bitcoin and Ethereum pricing from MarketWatch, Bitcoin being this blue one, Ethereum being this orange one, and their price is on the left-hand side. And then we take TechSpot's data right here and implement it as an overlay from that. So we have the 3090, 3080, 3070, and 3060 Ti. And we've been following this for several months now and how that's been trending. So one thing that was unfortunately right on last month is we saw big increases in both Bitcoin and Ethereum, but we saw decreases in every graphics card being sold on eBay. And because of this, my conclusion was that graphics cards were going to go up in price this month, which given TechSpot's data seems to be true. That is a pretty significant margin, especially for the 3090. But the thing that makes me hopeful is that since November 8th for Bitcoin and Ethereum, the price of them has been declining, which typically means a decline of the cost of GPUs on eBay. Although from our experience, the GPU used market is about a month delay from the crypto market, and there is the holidays to consider as well, which may have an unforeseen impact on that trend. But TechSpot's data versus Bitcoin and Ethereum pricing isn't the only thing that we look at, which brings us on to Terapeak. Now, most of you have heard me talk about Terapeak now. It's a market research analysis tool for eBay that will tell you the average sale price of a given search term. So the search term that we've been looking at, that's been our focus point, has been the RTX 3080, and we've been looking at it over the past 90 days, 30 days, and 7 days to see if it's been trending downwards or trending upwards in terms of price. Because if it's been trending upwards, that tells us that they are more valuable and harder to source, and if it's been trending downwards, it means that they are less valuable and less difficult to source. So an RTX 3080 in the last 90 days is currently being sold for $1,743. Last time that we did this video was $1,725. So it's roughly around $18 more expensive. Not the biggest deal in the world, but not great that it's going up. But when it comes to the last 30 days, the last time that we did this was $1,729.99, $1,792.73. Now, that's not good. What's that, 63-ish dollars? That's a pretty big jump. And that's not great to hear when it comes to assessing your ability to buy a GPU right now. But the thing that's the most relevant to you is actually the last 7 days. So the last 7 days, we were last month, $1,747.08. This month is $1,873.90. It has risen by $126 roughly. That is a big increase. That is almost 10%. It has increased from the last 7 days this month compared to the last 7 days last month, which is not a good sign, but it is something that we did predict in last month's video. But the last data point that we look at is how much can you buy the cheapest RTX 3080 on eBay right now? Last month, what was it? $1,399 plus $24.99 shipping. What we do is buy now, sort by lowest price plus shipping, and then find the cheapest non-scam listing, which might be this one. What we tend to do is look for a seller with some rating, doesn't need to be an awful lot. And we also look in the description for any red flags or anything that could tell us that it is likely going to be a legitimate listing. Delivery confirmation will be used when shipping. They entered that in manually, so that is a good sign. At $1,499 plus about $16 shipping, so it's looking at almost $100 more expensive to buy the cheapest RTX 3080 on eBay compared to last month, which is kind of sad. So to summarize, because I understand that this is a lot of data that does need context, this month there's been an odd month in terms of analyzing the market. We've had Nvidia increase supply and Bitcoin trend down, which are both very positive things in terms of the average gamer being able to get their hands on a GPU, either by lower prices used or less competition new. However, Ethereum is still extremely high right now, and this likely has a bigger impact to the GPU market compared to Bitcoin. You then take into account the holiday gifts are going to drive up demand during this time. It looks like this month is going to be a pretty difficult month, but there is a potential silver lining and a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. We are less than a month away from the holidays. Holidays means presents. Presents means upgrades, and upgrades means another man's treasure. For anyone who doesn't mind shopping used, maybe a generation or two old, you'll likely see many more options soon after Christmas Day, with competition being lower than normal and supply being higher than normal, which is a good thing for savvy shoppers. You then take into account that we have GPU releases from Intel shortly after in early 22, then Nvidia and AMD to follow, which if they coincide with potential crypto bans could be an extremely positive thing for the entire PC hardware and gaming community. And I think there are real reasons to be hopeful about the near future. So instead of the whole get subscribed, like this video, sign out I typically do, this is the last GPU crisis update for this year. And if you don't follow other TechLens content here on the channel, I do wish you and your family all the best for the holidays. Your views, your beliefs, none of that impacts my ability to wish you well. So be safe, enjoy your time with your loved ones, and I'll see you all very soon. Thank you for watching.